What's up, John? We're back in the game room. How's it going, man? Hanging out. Today, I was thinking about the TurboGrafx 16, which was a system for video games that came out in 1989, 1990. I had one as a kid. I was one of the few kids that actually remembers playing this thing as a kid. Now, I didn't get it at the store when it came out. I picked up my TurboGrafx 16, I believe it was in 1992, and we had the fall festival at church and our school. I went to the Catholic school. So, fall festival was this crazy time when they had rides and bands, music, food, beer. It was crazy. And there's also a huge yard sale that took over the gym and half the parking lot, and everybody would donate stuff and they would sell it to raise money for the church, for Salvation Army or things like that, or Knights of Columbus. I can't remember what all the money went to. But so people would just bring all their garage sale type things, and that was always my favorite part. I would kind of save up. I would get money, for my parents. That would be like for food. They give me like $20 and I was supposed to buy food, but I would always just go to the sale, the yard sale part of it, and look for things, always looking for something. I remember that's where I got my Magnavox Odyssey, which might be a story for another day. But, so this is fall 92, and I'm walking through and I see a box with a TurboGrafx 16 and a pile of games. And I can't remember how much I actually paid for it, but I know it was less than $40 because I never had more than $40 in my life up until that point. So I know it was somewhere between 20 and $40. It might have just been $20, and I spent all my food money for the whole weekend on this video game system. But I was super pumped to find a TurboGrafx. I didn't really know anything about it. I just knew it was video games, and it looked really cool. So picked it up, hooked it up when I got home. I had my little TV and stuff, and I had 6 games to start with. And the first one that I really remember falling in love with, Bonks Adventure. So I don't know if you guys remember back in the 90s, cavemen were huge. I mean, obviously there was the Flintstones before that, going back, but there was the show Dinosaurs. Everything in the 90s, we were just obsessed with cavemen. So Bonks Adventure was really cool. You were like a little caveman kid, and you ran around, you hit people you headbanged, and you would hit people with your head. This game is awesome. I love it. I remember playing it all the time, and I had my own lyrics to all the songs, and that I would make up. Most of them were in Spanish, so I was learning Spanish at the time. So I would write these lyrics in Spanish to every song on Bonks Adventure, and definitely remember playing this game. The awesome thing about the TurboGrafx controller is that it had built-in turbo, so you could just kind of spam the headbutt attack and do these flips in the air. This game is one of the all-time greats on the system, and this is one of the first games I fell in love with, Bonks Adventure. Another game that I had, which this was the pack-in game for the TurboGrafx 16, Keith Courage in the Alpha Zones. This game is cool. It's kind of like a mecha anime style game, and the game it's a platformer, and there's 2 parts to it. You're up on the overworld kind of, and you're walking around, and you're just like a normal person, and then you go into the Alpha Zones, and this rainbow comes and takes you away, and you go to the Alpha Zones, and there you're in an awesome suit, and you're like a huge mecha, and you can shoot things, and you're just great. So that part is cool. I wish the whole game was just in the Alpha Zones, because the other part's pretty boring. This game's all right. It's not like my favorite. Probably maybe one of the reasons the TurboGrafx didn't do so well. But needless to say, this was a game that everybody in the United States that had the TurboGrafx 16, I think in Japan or other countries they called it the PC Engine, but it was TurboGrafx in the United States. Everybody played this game. Then this is another game I had that I remembered, and I got rid of all my video game stuff over the years and went back and tried to get all the things I remembered. And there was stuff, oh yeah, I remember Bonks Adventure. I remember Keith Courage. There's this game that I couldn't remember, and so, playing emulators and Raspberry Pis and stuff like that, RetroPie, I would go through the TurboGrafx games trying to find it. I was like, what was the name of that game? I remember playing this game. It's this crazy, like, metal dude with long red hair, and I was a zombie, and I had a sword, and I was slaying dragons, and I couldn't remember the name of the game. And it's not, from what I understand, it's not a game that everybody remembers, but it was one of the 6 games that I had, and I only ever had the first 6 games that came with that system that I got at the Fall Festival. So I was trying to figure out what the game was, searched and searched, finally came across it. It's called Samurai Ghost, and look at this guy, totally crazy metal zombie dude, samurai with red hair and a huge sword. This game's awesome. The sprites are huge. It's a Namco made this game, and just an awesome game, and totally underrated. If you haven't played it, fire it up or check out some videos of it. Samurai Ghost was probably, after Bonk, this was probably my second favorite game that I played all the time on my TurboGrafx. Then another game that I had that was awesome was this game right here called Blazing Lasers. And Blazing Lasers was it's a shooter, a vertical shooter. I always love shooters. One of my favorite arcade games of all time would have been 1942 and 1943. Anytime I saw those games, I had to play them. Those were my go-tos at the arcade, were vertical scrolling shooters, and Blazing Lasers is like that, but it's incredible. It has awesome power-ups. It looks so great. The sound is so good. Like, the 16-bit graphics just blew everybody away. Coming from, regular Nintendo and 8-bit graphics and stuff, if you see a game like Blazing Lasers, it just blew my mind how good it looked. It looked like an arcade game. It looked as good as an arcade game. And this game really helped me fall in love with playing shooters. Then there's 2 more games that I had. And this one is Legendary Axe. And I don't remember a ton about this. I haven't actually played this one in a while. But Legendary Axe is I'm pretty sure it's just kind of like a side-scrolling hack and slash game. I'm pretty sure that's what you do. Kind of like maybe Altered Beast or something like that, or any kind of, I don't know, any kind of side-scrolling game, like sort of a Castlevania style. I don't know, but you don't have a whip. You got a axe. So I need to fire that up and play it some more. And another game I had that was crazy and scared the crap out of me when I was a kid was this game, Alien Crush, which is a pinball game. Video game pinball, but absolutely disgusting, scary. It kind of reminded me of the Alien movies, which also scared me. And it had lots of guts and biomechanical things. Really, really sick looking game, especially when I think I was 12 years old at the time. So, Alien Crush used to scare me, but I still liked it, and I did play it a lot. And I love pinball, and the idea that I could play a pinball game at home was cool. So, yeah, those are my games. That's what I remember of the TurboGrafx when I was a kid. I had 6 games. Oops. Yeah, these six cards, and that's all it was. And TurboGrafx was a cool system. These little hue cards that the games came on, like little credit card size things. I never had any cases for my games. They always just came in these little plastic things. I don't remember seeing the box art or the cases. I don't remember ever seeing TurboGrafx games in stores. It just wasn't on my radar when it was there, and I think by that point a lot of it had moved to mail order, and there was like magazines that you could get and mail order things, but I didn't really have that. There's a couple other games that I've got since. They're really hard to find, and I don't like to buy stuff on eBay. I like to find stuff out at flea markets or out in the wild. So I don't have a ton of more games, but another great game that everybody loves on the system is Splatterhouse, and I picked that game up, and that game's really cool. It's a horror-based beat 'em up, kind of like Turtles Arcade, I guess. Like where I think it's like a little bit like that, but you play Jason, and that game's really cool. I got a racing game called Victory Run, which is pretty boring, but I love having a racing game. And then there's this other game called Sidearms, which is another shooter that's really pretty affordable for TurboGrafx games. Some of the games can be 60, 70, $80. There's games that are in the hundreds and hundreds of dollars for the TurboGrafx. Sidearms is a pretty cheap game. You can get for 20, $30, and really fun horizontal shooter. And the cool thing about it is you can fire both directions. So if you press the first button, it shoots to the left, and if you press the second button, it shoots to the right. So those were kind of my memories of the. So that's another great game on TurboGrafx. But anyway, so that's my memories of the TurboGrafx 16. I don't know. I hardly ever meet anybody else that had one as a kid that has memories of the TurboGrafx. There's people online, that remember it, that talk about it, and there's some people on Instagram that I've talked to, but I hardly ever meet anybody that remembers the TurboGrafx 16 or had it. And but for me, it was a big system. It was my first 16-bit system that I had, and I got it in middle school, and I played it, well through high school till I went to college, and I really just had like 6 games, and that was it. But that was all I had, so I just played it, and I love the system. It's just really expensive to collect for, so I try to just have the games that I remember and games that I really want to play. There's some games that I'm looking for that I've played on emulator. There's a game called Air Zonk, which is kind of like Bonk Goes to the Future, and it's a shooter, but it's super crazy, kind of like a cute 'em up. I beat that game a couple times on the emulator, but the game is totally sick. Graphics, incredible soundtrack. Like the soundtrack's addicting, and awesome game. So I'm still looking for that. But yeah, that's pretty much it on my memories from the TurboGrafx. If you guys had one when you were a kid, or you remember seeing it in stores, or have memories of the TurboGrafx, I'd love to hear about it. Write a comment, or post a video yourself, and tag me in it. I'd love to hear that kind of stuff. So, because I hope you have some memories too of the TurboGrafx. So that'll be it for now, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.